Hello, guys, and here we are with part 2 of episode 1 of the birth episode of the Nemesis Project. I am Joe Dubs, and I am with Zach.
Hello.
And what is this podcast about? Pretty much, it's about all the Resident Evils, and we just talk about it because we are fans of this franchise.
That's right.
And we love to do this crap. So... just like last episode, we're gonna kind of break it down into like 4 sections. I like to do like these funny titles. So let's get into the first part. Before I start, actually, Zach, how are you feeling today?
Feeling pretty good. Pretty good.
I know that you were streaming Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, and it was pretty good. What I like about Zach's streams is that he doesn't just go like with Sony. It's just like, hey, Dreamcast, hey, Saturn, and all that stuff. So I respect the retroness into your Resident Evil games.
Oh yeah, I mix it all up.
Yeah, I'm building up that retro collection hopefully soon. I do have the N64 with Resident Evil 2, but Zach is going to be playing the N64 version, and I'm going to be playing the PlayStation 1 so that we can have footage for this. But right now we're just recording it. And we know Resident Evil 2 like the back of our hand and shit. So let's get into it. So the first section I have is sorry about that in Kendo voice.
Ooh, sorry about that, babe.
Hey, sorry about that, babe, to Claire.
Yeah, which is sexist as fuck.
Well, what's funny, side note about Resident Evil 2 Remake is like there's such an opposite. Like Kendo in Resident Evil 2 1998 is so like comedy, and then in Resident Evil 2 Remake, he's very serious. Like there's a scene, I won't spoil it, but there's a scene where you're just like, that's Kendo? That's sorry about that, babe?
It's actually a pretty emotional part of the story when they run into him.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I respect it. They kind of made it a little serious, but there was times in the game, we'll talk about that next time.
Yeah.
Right now, we're into the 1998 Resident Evil 2. Yeah, so pretty much we're going to be talking about Resident Evil 2, and again, we're going to talk about the history, what happened before they started making it, and, you know, what was our favorite weapons, what was our favorite journal entries, what type of versions were there, and bonus modes, unlockables. We're going to go through everything here on the Nemesis Project. So the first thing I want to get into is Resident Evil 1.5. Now, what's funny is they did have Leon S. Kennedy, and they had Ada Wong, they had William Birkin, but they didn't have Claire. They had Elsa Walker. Who was she? Like, do they even mention her through the lore or anything?
No, her character pretty much got scrapped when that version of the game got scrapped.
Mm-hmm. And what I liked about the difference about Resident Evil 1.5, and if anybody is like, what is 1.5? It was kind of like the early development of Resident Evil 2, kind of like the alpha of it, I guess. They were kind of...
I think it was 70% done when they scrapped it, something like that. Yeah.
I know the Shinji Mikami, I always mess up on the Japanese name. I remember seeing an interview with him, and he was just like, it was so boring. Like, everything was boring about this, so they just scrapped everything. And what's funny is that they had a different police station in Resident Evil 1.5. It was more modern than the one that we got in 1998. Which was really interesting because... What do you prefer? Do you prefer the 1998 museum-looking police station? Or did you like what 1.5 was trying to do to make it a little more modern?
Well, I think I'm going to prefer what came out just because that's what I'm used to and like. that front hall and everything is like iconic. Like that whole police station's iconic. It's pretty much as iconic as the mansion is at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And but I like the look of the modern police station and everything in 1.5 from like everything that's come out in like the last few years. It looks really interesting.
Mm-hmm. I heard they wanted to use less polygons so that they could throw a lot of zombies on the screen. And what do you think of that? You think that would have hurt the game if they did that, or the 19? I mean, obviously, we're always going to say 1998 was, you know, perfect because it is a good game. But you think if they like maybe lessened the graphics a little bit on the zombies, it would have been a little bit more challenging, I guess. With the
It could have been. I think that depends on the balance they would have struck in the gameplay. Like if they would have given you ammo or more opportunities to find ammo to compensate for that or something, that could have been pretty interesting too. I don't know. I don't know what the build is like that everybody's been working on. I don't know if it stayed true to that idea or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I find it interesting that like the whole development team was just like, this is boring, we can't do this. And maybe it would have been boring, but I kind of wish that maybe during all this time that we waited for the remake, they would just release the 70% of 1.5 to us to see if we would have liked it or not. Because that would have been that would have been interesting if like they were wrong and for some reason 1.5 is better than 1998. What do you think about that?
Well, I'd say within enough time, maybe another year, couple years or something, we'll have a complete version of the game because there's fans working on it and building on it as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I don't know. I don't think everybody in the team thought it was boring because if I understood this right, I think Shinji Mikami became like producer after the first game.
Yeah.
And then somebody else on the original team stepped up to the director plate, and then that's what they were working on. And then he came along checking on him again after a while, and he didn't really like it. And I think that's when he started deferring to like other people to ask them opinions about it. And one of the really interesting ones I didn't know about was he got a hold of the guy who I can't remember this guy's name right now, but he was a writer for Kamen Rider and I think the Super Sentai series, the Power Rangers in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked him about ideas for the story and stuff, and he's like, well, there's not enough connections to the original game story. And that's when they came up with the idea of, well, we need to scrap Elsa and put Claire in instead because she's related to Chris. And I think that's when they got Hideki Kamiya too to be the director instead, who now works on like he's in Platinum Studios and he did Devil May Cry and he works on Bayonetta now.
Yeah, and to be fair, like Elsa Walker, her getup, I don't know if that was like a prototype or something just to put something on her, but it looked stupid as hell. Like, I guess maybe if she was riding a motorcycle, a sports motorcycle, that would make sense, I guess.
Yeah, she was. That's like one of those crotch rocket suits you're supposed to wear if you want to ride one of those super high speed, sport bikes. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird, and it's also in Resident Evil 2 Remake. Claire could be in Elsa Walker's getup, which is interesting.
I like that costume. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a great nod to 1.5. I kind of wish, like, in the remake, they kind of like, hey, if you get like a perfect or an S rank on this hardcore thing, you get 1.5. That would have been fucking cool. But
oh yeah.
But anyway, kind of differences with 1.5. With Elsa Walker, you had John as one of Elsa's supporting characters. He's a civilian who seeks refuge in the police station, possibly locked himself in the cell to protect himself from zombies, like Ben, the reporter. He later became Robert Kendo in the final version of Biohazard 2. And then you had Roy, another RPD officer role, scenario unknown, but it was assumed that his role was similar to Marvin, judging from available footage, it seems somehow connections with John. So I guess Roy and John would be, I guess, working together, and then Elsa would come in from the outside. And then obviously you have Sherry Birkin, who's getting chased by William Birkin throughout the game. And then Leon, you had Marvin and Ada Wong. I guess Marvin had a bigger role in 1.5 compared to what happened in 1998. So,
yeah, I think Kendo did too, actually, because like I saw you were saying that there were different characters, and I think what happened is they changed their mind about a couple of those, and they stuck Kendo in. And I remember reading somewhere Kendo was supposed to have a pretty big role too.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting.
It's a mess, is what it is.
Yeah. I kind of wish they did release it to the public, but again, maybe they just don't want to expose the business. That's a wrestling term, everybody.
Japan's really weird about stuff like this, especially video game companies in Japan. They'll be real. They used to be super secretive about stuff. Like if like they wouldn't put anybody in the credits in their games. It would always be like made up names or nicknames or something. Supposedly it was like a measure to prevent headhunting from rival companies or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They always do weird stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's pretty much about 1.5 that I digged up that it was kind of interesting. We could go like literally on like 2-hour rant of what was different and all the stuff, but is there any like history that you have with Resident Evil 2 before it was made, I should say?
No, I think I pretty much covered everything I could think of to bring up that was interesting. I mean, back when this was going on, I wasn't aware of, any of the video game publications or anything. So it's something I followed back when it was happening. I had no idea. So all this is like stuff I learned way after the fact.
1.5, I mean, did they try to release it on any other system, or was it just plainly Sony?
I think it was just strictly Sony for a while there. And then once they switched to the 2 that we know, that's when they started working on a Saturn port around that time, and then it got scrapped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry, I got like a scratchy throat. It's kind of hot in my room. Maybe I have the G virus. Maybe I'm... Or the T virus, I should say. Since the T virus is apparently stronger. Yeah, so let's move on. Kind of quick here, voice acting. Was it better than Resident Evil 1? I would say slightly a little bit better compared to what Resident Evil 1 had. There were some very campy moments. Very, very noticeable in the end where, like, Leon, Claire, and Sherry are on the train, and, like, it's like, I forgot what it was when they what is that word I'm looking for, where they gave the antivirus to Sherry, anti-G, we'll just call that, and all of a sudden they give it to Sherry and she wakes up and it's like, you're alive, yay. It was just an awkward scene.
Yeah, there was a couple of lines like that. I think one of my favorites is like when if you play Leon A, Claire B, and she fights the Mr. X tyrant at the end. She gets the rocket launcher instead of Leon. And when you go to shoot him, each one of them says a line. They have a one-liner. Leon says, game over. And he just blasts him. It's awesome.
Warning, warning. The self-destruct system has been activated. Each train compartment will detonate sequentially. Repeat, each train compartment will detonate sequentially.
Claire! Stop the train!
I can't. The door to the control room is locked. Claire? What is this? Stay back. This is not good. Leon, where are you?
one's the right switch? Maybe this one?
Sherry!
Leon! Ah! Can't hold on.
Push the switch over there!
Got it!
Finally, the exit.
Are you all right?
I'm okay.
Where's Claire? Claire? Claire!
Right here.
Claire!
I guess we all made it. They just won't quit. Come on, we have to get out of here. Run! So, it's finally over. Sherry, you look terrible.
No worse than you, Claire.
Come on, time to leave.
Now? What's wrong? Is something following us?
We have to go. We don't have any time to waste.
Go? Where?
Hey, it's up to us to take out Umbrella.
Warning. Warning. The self-destruct system has been activated. Each train compartment will detonate sequentially. Repeat. Each train
What?
compartment will detonate sequentially.
Leon, stop the train!
I can't. The door to the control room is locked.
What?
What is it?
Sherry, get back! That's what I call ugly. Claire! Where are you?
You don't give up, do you?
Sherry! What are you doing?
We have to stop the train, right? I can do it.
Sherry! Persistent, aren't you? Well, come and get it!
Which one's the right switch? Maybe this one?
Sherry!
Claire! Ah!
Can't hold on much longer.
Push the switch over there!
Got it!
Ugh. Finally.
Are you okay, Sherry?
I'm okay.
Where's Leon? Leon? Leon!
Right here.
Leon!
You're both safe. Just die. We've got to get out of here. Move it. Go! That was a close one. That was pretty impressive back there, Sherry.
It was nothing. I saw someone do that on TV once.
Come on. We've got to move out.
Now what's the problem? Is something following us?
Hey, we still have a job to do. Let's go.
Go? Oh, you can't mean...
Chris, I have to find you.
Claire goes like, "You lose, big guy," and it's like, bam! It's like awesome. It's like really cheesy.
Yeah, and it's always been campy that way. And Man, I don't know why I'm blanking right now, but there's many scenes where you're just like, huh, this seems really good. When they were talking with Ben, I like Leon's little one-liners, like especially when Ada like runs away from him. He's like, "Why is nobody listening to me?" It's,
Yeah.
it's a very Seinfeld moment when he does that. So like, what's up?
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, he's got a couple whining lines. Like he's like, nobody's ever listening to me. I think he does that when Claire cuts him off too at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like I don't know, a lot of it's interesting though, because when like the remake came out for this, a lot of people were like, you had people complaining about the new voice acting, which is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
It was a happy medium with them being a little bit campy, but also very serious at sometimes. But
Yeah.
but again, that's the remake, and we'll talk about that in the future. But man, it takes a really long time in this franchise for them to have somewhat good voice acting. And
I'll say this at this point, this is when I think they really started to hire like actual voice actor people.
mhm.
So I think Allison Court, the woman that plays Claire, she'd been on like a lot of cartoons and stuff up to that point, so she at least had experience.
Yeah.
Any of these other people, though, I have no idea. I don't think I ever heard of any of them.
No, I think they got people off the street again, and they're just like,
Yeah.
here's a microphone. I know you're English and you're in Japan right now, but I need you to say these lines, and there you go, game over.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know anything else to say besides there wasn't really anything weird. There was no like Inez kind of thing in the live action. You just said the Claire voice actor was in cartoons. Yeah, nothing major. Just kind of want to point out that it's still cheesy, and then here's a montage of some cheesy moments, and you'll hear that and you'll see that in YouTube. So let's move on to the second section where we get a little meteor. That's not even a word. I just made it up, I think. Meteor. I don't know. I'm bad with words today. I apologize.
That's the beauty of the English language. It's malleable. You can bend it however you need to.
Mm-hmm. No, don't go. The second section is sorry about your party, Leon. That's kind of a little hint about Marvin where he's sitting on the floor, and he's like sorry about your party. Everything's fucked up. There's a zombie apocalypse happening. So
I think he says it looks like your party's been canceled.
yeah.
I'd say so.
And then Leon's just like a good boy cop. He's like, we need to get you a hospital. That's how I always like saw Leon back in the 90s. So he was like, oh my god, I gotta be a good boy. But he got more badass in Resident Evil 4. I will say that. Let's get into different versions of Resident Evil 2. It's not like Resident Evil 1 where we had a remake in GameCube, because we had to wait 22 years for a remake to happen.
We had to wait. Well, they announced it, I think, in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So we waited like 18 years.
Damn.
Yeah.
So, like, Resident Evil 2 had a lot of different releases. They had it on the PlayStation 1. Then they had it on the N64. Did they have it on the Dreamcast?
Yeah, there's a version on Dreamcast. It's a really good one.
So you had Dreamcast. Trying to think what else. PC?
GameCube, PC,
Yeah,
PC and GameCube, and the the Tiger handheld thing. It has one too.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
The Gamecom has one.
Yeah, and kind of a little side note, Resident Evil Gaiden had Leon S. Kennedy in it, right? Correct?
It also had him and Barry. They were like both in it.
Wow.
Which is weird, yeah.
Why couldn't they have that in like a real game? Even though I know like Gaiden is a game, but like put that shit on like a AAA title on Sony or GameCube or whatever. It would have been a lot more interesting if it was very 3D and good looking. I think I kind of would dig the story a little bit. If I remember correctly, Gaiden was on a ship.
Yeah, it's on like a cruise liner. It's weird because if you play Resident Evil Revelations, it takes place on a cruise liner. It's like kind of a weird rehash of that story in a way.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I know I kind of messed up on the first part. I kind of skipped something, so I'll move it to this section. What was new compared to Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 1?
Really not that much. Like everything still, I think the game feels better in terms of like your character's movement. I think it's because they did a better job on the animations and everything. But all the core mechanics are still the same. The only things that changed were like little minor things, like both characters have 8 item spaces now by default.
Mm-hmm.
There's no difference in characters' health. Claire can take the same damage as Leon, so it's not a sexist game anymore. And like
the add-ons on the gun, like
oh yeah, they had all the gun attachments and things like that. Yeah,
I'm trying to think what they had the same graphics. They still had like the, I guess, static image or something.
Yeah, they still used the pre-rendered backdrops, but they were higher quality. Everything was higher quality.
Mm-hmm. I will say the pace of Resident Evil 2 was way better than Resident Evil 1.
I can agree with that, sure.
Because I think Resident Evil 1, like, you had your high moment in the mansion, and then, like, when it hit down to the part where you're doing, like, the plant stuff in Resident Evil 1, I feel like it slowed down a little bit. In Resident Evil 2, you're always dealing with
well, darling,
you know,
by the
Birkin,
time I noticed something was wrong,
showing
the
up
entire city was infested with zombies.
And you also had Mr. X. I mean, he's not as bad as in the remake where you always have to worry about him, but you never
But
knew
don't you worry, girlie.
where he would pop
You'll
up.
be safe in here.
Like in Resident Evil 2 remake,
I'm
you hear
keeping
the
a
footsteps.
close eye on
In Resident Evil 2 1998, though,
He just appears.
he just bashes through the fucking wall like Kool-Aid Man. And you're just like, oh god, and then
Oh yeah.
But what was cool about the 1998 version is that when he winds up for a punch, you had time to dodge him. In Resident Evil 2 remake, you're just like, I gotta like go under his clothesline like John Cena before doing the 5-knuckle shuffle kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that was like interesting because you're always on your toes, and I felt like the bosses were a little more thought out than Resident Evil 1, because Resident Evil 1 they're like, what are we gonna have in there? Oh yeah, big snake. I mean, even though in Resident Evil 2 they had the crocodile,
Big alligator.
yeah, but they had they kind of threw in a moth, a giant moth at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, you had more reoccurring bosses, whereas the first game did not have that, other than, I guess, if you want to count the tyrant coming back at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you messed up your ending and you got a bad ending.
Yeah, and then like the enemies, I guess, kind of were the same. Like in Resident Evil 1, the dangerous ones, I think, are the hunters, because the hunters you're just like, oh fuck, like 2 swipes I'm dead. And then Resident Evil 2, you had the lickers. I guess they were kind of like the same as the hunters a little bit. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, with like the hunters, it's like if you were in caution, you just turned a corner, you could get one-shotted.
Mm-hmm.
Lickers do a little less damage than them, I think, but they have that one move where they'll leap through the air and like claw you. They'll slash you with their big claws. That one always did like a ton of damage.
Well, you had the super lickers that were kind of like a darker color and stuff, and they were more dangerous, especially near the end. Funny moment, actually, during one of the charity streams I did, I was doing Resident Evil 2 1998 before the remake came out. It was during the midnight, and I got to a part, literally the last part before you fight William Birkin at the end, and I put myself into a corner where super liquor would drop down. I had no bullets and I had no healing items, so it's not like I could take a couple of hits and go by him. So every time I walked forward, I died. So I had to go. I didn't save for a while. Like, I didn't save pretty much until I entered the sewer, and I had to redo all that shit again.
Ouch.
Because I was like, oh, I'm doing pretty good, and that hurt me. What else was different?
Well, this is where they introduced what they call the zapping system, which is a really weird way to put it. Where the characters have scenarios and you could play them in either order. You could flip them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because like the way it's like it was marketed is like, oh, it changes everything. Like decisions you make in Leon's game affect Claire's game very seriously. And it's really like there's just a couple things. It's like what hall you repair the metal shutters on that cover the windows, the broken windows.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like, oh, do you take the submachine gun or do you take the hip pouch? That's it. It's just those two things.
I mean, that was pretty big back in the day, and I think, when did Metal Gear Solid 1 come out? Was that 97?
98.
Oh, damn. 98 was
Same
a good
year.
year.
98 was a big year in gaming.
So, I guess maybe they caught air. I don't know. I didn't research this part because Metal Gear Solid. But like when Metal Gear Solid came out and they had that, Psycho Mantis scene where it was kind of like, oh shit, this is really meta. Resident Evil 2 doing that stuff with the pouch and the submachine gun, I guess is somewhat meta because it's like, yeah, I did that before. How does the system know that? You know what I mean? Like technology back in the 90s was pretty straightforward. You picked up a controller, you did stuff with the character, but they never really got too meta with games until, I guess, 98 when Resident Evil 2 and Metal Gear Solid came out. So I kind of digged it.
I mean, it was cool, yeah. It's just, I don't know, people blew it up to be way bigger than what it was for some, like, back then, no, but like after the fact, people look back at it and act like it's a really big deal. It's kind of not, actually.
Pretty much. I think it would have been cool if certain scenes, like if you kill the boss, like you sort of like for example, let's say part of the boss's body, any bosses, like you blew off their leg, like it'd be pretty cool. Like in the later scene in another scenario, you see that leg is missing because Leon did it. I think that would have been pretty cool if they did more things like that.
Oh yeah, sure. But like, I mean, I guess I didn't really mention too, though, is like some of the cutscenes and stuff change too, depending on how you play, like what version you play, like who's playing A or B. So that's something else as well. I mean, it does add some replay value to the game. It's like, it's kind of both games kind of have their own pluses in terms of that. Like in Resident Evil 1, there's multiple endings for each character. And it kind of, depending on how good or bad you do or what you do, some things you would do in the game you wouldn't even think are bad. It's just you didn't think about it and it ends up becoming a bad ending.
Well, the one thing,
go ahead.
The one thing I didn't like is that, and I didn't really care about this when it first came out because I was like, cool, this is a zombie apocalypse game. I could play it multiple times with a male and a female. But like now when I look at it, I'm like, well, why didn't they change some stuff up? Like when that truck came and split them up, it would have been cool if like Claire came from a different entrance. Like not even the police station. Like it would have been cool if like she had to go through the city and then eventually make it to the police station, but from a different entrance, compared to Leon, where Leon actually goes through the front door. And like that would have been interesting and it would have been great detail. But like even in both games, like Resident Evil 2 this one and the remake, they kind of go, hey, they all go through the same entrance and they go through all the same cutscenes. I mean, I guess it would be more work, I guess.
Well, they don't go through the same entrance. Whoever's B, they go through the backside in the '98 game, like up that staircase and everything.
Yeah, that's true.
And yeah, like I think they do the same kind of thing actually in remake.
That's very true. So, but I don't know. Even like with the storytelling, like it would be cool if they like, hey, yeah, you just missed your friend Leon. He just, left like 5 minutes ago or like an hour ago. But like,
yeah.
But they kind of just go like, oh, we're having the same dialogue like from the Leon section, and I'm just like, in a way that's kind of lazy, but I guess I understand because that's just going to be more work, I guess.
I think the best way to really put this part of the segment here is it doesn't do much different from the first game, but it refines pretty much everything that it did.
Very true. And they kind of add bonus modes, and they did have unlockables in Resident Evil 1 Remake, but the bonus modes of the fourth survivor, Tofu and Hunk, I think were really cool. When I finally unlocked it, and keep in mind, I didn't unlock this until 2007.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I'm not that great at video games, guys. When I play hard game, like if I go into hard mode, I literally will take a really long time. And I'm more of a story-driven video game player. What were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say unlocking Fourth Survivor on PS1 is like no joke. It's actually kind of hard. I know there's a lot of people out there that have done it, but like, I don't think I'm bad at video games. I think I'm decent, but like, depending on type of game too, I think I'm pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But that was something I always struggled with. I could never unlock it legitimately on PS1 because it's insane. You have to beat the game in 2 hours with both characters, not 2 hours apiece. You can only save 3 times, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You can't use any first aid sprays. And that's it. You got to do it too. You basically have to speed run and handicap yourself a little bit with healing items, or you want to unlock. You just won't do it.
Yeah, and if you're really bad at the game, I guess you can get a Game Shark. If anybody remembers that.
If you're really bad at the game and you have a lot of money, what you do, or back in the day anyway, or you can do it now, what you do is you buy an N64 or a Dreamcast or a GameCube and buy their version of the game, and it's all unlocked automatically with everything else.
Yep. And in this day and age, you can pretty much get anything. But anyway, when you unlock these Fourth Survivors missions and stuff, it's kind of like pretty much what it says is a survivor missions where you go from point A to point B, but they throw everything in the kitchen sink at you. Hunk is an Umbrella employee. They call him Grim Reaper, if I'm correct.
That's his nickname, yeah.
Yeah, because he's one of the best shooters and I guess survivors within the team. And then you had Tofu. Now you're probably wondering, what is tofu? Exactly what it is. It's tofu with
It's a block of tofu with a knife.
with the Jill Valentine hat on the head. And my God, tofu is fucking hard.
Yep.
I'm just terrible at it. That's why I like Hunk more better. What is Extreme Battle, by the way? I never did Extreme Battle.
Oh, well, that's something you just unlock from finishing the game, A and B. There's no special caveats to that. Extreme Battle is just an extra mode where you can play as a few characters. You can unlock a couple of other ones too. Like, you start with Leon and Claire.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a 3-part mini game where It's like you start at the labs and you have to like get to the tram thing to go back up. You're actually playing the game in reverse in a way.
That's cool.
And it's like different objectives. It's like in the first stage, you get to the tram to go up into the sewers. In the second stage, it's you go through the sewers looking for bombs, and you have to get into the police station. And the third stage is setting the bombs in the police station.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's item pickups and stuff. So it's really just like kind of an extended mini game. And like I think when you beat it with Leon, you unlock Ada. And then when you beat it with Claire, you unlock Chris. And that's pretty cool to play as Chris in Resident Evil 2.
Where he drops his weapons on the cliff.
No, Chris doesn't screw anything up in this. So yeah.
Costumes. I will say, if I remember this correctly, where you don't use your weapon throughout the beginning of the level, or is that don't pick items?
You can't pick any items up until you get to the police station.
And then you go down the tunnel where Brad Vickers is there. And when we get into part 3, you'll know why Brad Vickers is there. But he's a zombie. And you kill him, and he has a key on him, a special key, I believe it's called.
Yep.
And you go to the room where you develop the pictures, and there's
the dark room.
Yeah, there's a locker there, and you use the key. And I remember Leon, you had the leather jacket, and Claire, I forgot what was Claire's. What was hers?
Claire had a denim jacket and jeans and cowboy boots. But the cool thing about hers, I think she also was wearing a bandana. The cool thing about hers was hers came with an extra gun that only she could use.
Oh yeah, I forgot it.
You get the Colt single action army with her. It's like it's a good handgun. It does a little bit more damage than the other ones do.
Mm-hmm. Any other unlockables? Because that's the only thing I remember is Hunk and Tofu. I mean, if you had the Game Shark, you could always have like unlimited ammo and unlimited flamethrower, and then you had like God mode pretty much where you don't die.
Yeah, I mean the only other little things I could mention is a little side note about Tofu is apparently the story went that Tofu was the model they used to test hitbox data when they were developing the game.
Really?
He was a placeholder, yeah. And then somebody was like goofing off one day and they were just playing the game with Tofu. And then I guess somebody was like, haha, that's funny, we should make that an extra mode, and then that's how it happened.
That's awesome.
And then the only other thing I can mention is the N64 has a unique unlockable in it.
Oh.
Which is the item randomizer. And what that does is it randomizes the location of every item in the game.
Oh.
So you'll never be able to remember where anything is theoretically. It'll always be in a different spot.
And that's unlockable on the N64?
Yeah.
God, I have it right here. I gotta set that up and play it.
Yeah. I want to play it with the randomizer on at some point. I've never done that, so
It'd be interesting, and you would have to have a lot of strategy. I know, like, Link to the Past, they have, like, an item randomizer kind of thing. And my friend Steve, like, you have to strategize, like, oh, you get this item in, like, the very beginning stage. It's like, oh, I finished the game. All I gotta do is fight the final boss and win. I was like, that's pretty cool. If, like, you could do that. You get the final weapon or the final key, and then, you know, you could just skip to the end.
yeah, it's pretty neat.
Yeah. So, moving on. I almost said Andy. Zach.
Don't insult me like that.
Because I always do podcasts with Andy, so I'm used to saying Andy this, Andy that. Zach, what are your favorite, I guess, either side story that happens in there, or what, like, journal that you, or diary that you found in there, or a file, I should say, too, in Resident Evil 2 that you were just like, huh, that was good or that was funny.
I guess side story would be Fourth Survivor, because technically that's a side story.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens. Hunk escapes the sewers and gets out of there. It's just cool.
Well, except tofu. That was, I guess, the only thing added. Unless there was, like, G-Virus that went on a piece of tofu and he became self-aware.
Yeah. As for, like, the journals and stuff, the diaries you pick up, all the notes, I kind of felt like in this game, they were a little more boring compared to the first one.
Yeah, because I think they wanted to put more focus on the story that you're saying instead of reading.
Because the first one has that cool kind of creepy quality about it, where like a lot of the journals and notes and stuff are really like first-hand accounts.
Mm-hmm.
They're literally like journals and personal notes of people that worked in the labs and stuff in that area. Whereas this one, it's like a lot of dry police report stuff and like notes and just like notes of people that work in the freaking sewer or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So really by default, the best note goes to when you find Chief Irons' diary.
Yeah.
And it's just, and you find out he's like this insane fuck who has like he has a damn dungeon behind his office. And he talks about how much he enjoys shooting people in the back and shit. It's like insane.
Yeah, fucking Chief Irons. What a freak. I guess my side story that I like was Ada Wong. Because when I first met her, I was like, yeah, she's showing she's a little suspicious, but I kind of want to know more. And you gotta keep in mind, Resident Evil 2 was the first Resident Evil game I played before I went back to 1, where you find out there was a letter of John talking to Ada in that letter. So I thought that was pretty cool. I did not like Sherry at all.
Oh, she's kind of weird in that game, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like Sherry in like Resident Evil 2 Remake, I dig more than what 1998 was. I was like, you're an annoying little kid. I hope William Birkin finds you.
She comes off more natural in the remake. Like, it's actually believable that that's like a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the original, like, it's obviously an adult trying to play a kid. And the way, like, they're pronouncing words and everything, it's like that funny joke, like, why do white people have to pronounce every syllable of every word perfectly? That's literally how she's like delivering all her lines. It's really like not natural.
Mm-hmm. And I guess my favorite diary, because that's what it says, it should be journal because a boy wrote in it. That was the 90s, everybody. Boys did journals, girls did diaries. But anyway, Leon finds Chris' diary on his desk, and the whole in the beginning is Claire's like, I need to find my brother Chris, and like Leon goes into the STARS office, and then sees this diary and pretty much says, well, I'm in Europe now. And you're like, oh. And I remember us having this conversation. I was like, well, why didn't Chris tell, his family that he's going to Europe? Maybe he should have said that so Claire wouldn't get in this danger of finding you in Raccoon City.
Yeah.
Where eventually they nuke the fucking city because there's a fucking outbreak happen. And I feel
he's really lucky that she's resourceful.
And what's funny is like, I know we keep on bleeding into the remake because we had to like compare things a little bit. But did they show in Resident Evil 2 1998 that she's like, I could do things on my own. I'm a strong, independent woman. Did they?
Not really. No, that was never. There wasn't even like a throwaway line like that.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to bring up any SJW stuff, but like in the remake, it's kind of like they had the force sound like, I know what I'm doing. Don't talk to me, Marvin, you man. Like that's how it came off to me, and I'm like, okay, Claire, I get it. You're a Redfield. Redfields know their shit. and
Well-
and I dig that.
The way it came off to me was like they set it up better. It's like, okay, she came into town with her own gun, so it's obvious she knows how to defend herself.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, then she has that line with Marvin. It's like, I can take care of myself. It was more like, oh, like, don't worry. I know. I think I can shoot. I think I'll be okay. Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, we'll go into deep discussion of that. I think with the three of us, when we all talk down, and I have a special person that we're going to be having on that portion of Resident Evil 2 remake episode, is we're going to get into that because there's a difference in Marvin's tone when he's talking to Claire compared to Leon, and it's really interesting. But I'll save that for that episode. But yeah, I just found it funny that like Leon finds this thing, and I think if I remember correctly, Claire comes in and he's like, "I found out about your brother." And he hands like do you remember like in the Resident Evil 2 graphics, it doesn't even look like they're holding the fucking thing. It's like super glued to their hands.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's holding it out because their hands are flat. It's like the book is just stuck to their palm.
Yeah.
It's just like...
So he like hands her the thing, and I think that she read it. Because you would think like she would open it right away, but like, oh, this is Chris's. Let me see what's going on. Ignores it. I guess you have to think that she reads it later or something.
Well, I think what happens is like, well, when you're playing as Leon, and that happens. Yeah, she just kind of like it cuts away, or she looks away from it. But when you play as Claire, that's actually how she obtains the file.
Mm-hmm.
She walks in and sees Leon, and he's like, "Hey, it looks like your brother's not here," and then he hands it to her. Then it goes immediately into where you can read the file.
Yeah.
So they did kind of do that.
I guess. Well, I guess when you're playing from Leon's perspective, it's kind of like weird. But I guess
it's video game logic. It's just like, oh, you just automatically scanned your eyeballs and read it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's my favorite one. I mean, the other ones are kind of bland. They're like, this is how you mix the chemicals to defeat Plant 43. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And they kind of do that throughout the whole game. Like, you want to know how to beat this puzzle? Here's some vague words. Try to figure it out. I'm like, oh, okay. You made me waste time reading this fucking hint bullshit. And it's pretty funny. Like, they'd be like, you need to put this statue to this statue, and like a thing comes out of the chest. I'm like, oh, all right. Thank you for that plug.
Yeah.
Kind of the last part of this section. Do you have any personal stories about Resident Evil 2 when you first played it or something, or even like later, fairly recent when you played Resident Evil
2? Not from recently, no, but like I got this game Christmas actually, and it was a great Christmas present. I'll say that, because the same thing happened when I played the first one. I was like glued to the freaking TV, and I had to keep playing it. But there's one story I can remember, which was like, man, I think I was in high school. I think I was like in the 9th grade, and I got sick, and I went home. And you know what you do when you're sick and you go home from school? You sit there and you watch freaking Price is Right. And you drink 7-Up. That's what you do.
Yeah.
But me, I was like, this is bullshit. I'm gonna play Resident Evil 2. And I told myself, I'm going to unlock Honk today. I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to save a game with Leon, and I was intent to just, because you have to do it in 2 hours. It's like, well, I bet I can do it in 2 hours. And I think I did not save at all. I was just running through the game, and I was doing awesome. And then I got to the Birkin fight where he turns into like the big toothy dog-like version of him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like near the end of the labs, and he fucking killed me. And I got so mad. And I was just like, I think I threw the controller, and I was just like, fuck. And I just turned it off and went back to watching TV.
Back to Price is Right.
Yep. I got so mad. And I never tried it again for like several years after that.
Mm-hmm. It's very like, people don't understand that gaming was stressful. Like, it was fun, obviously, because it's video games, but it was really stressful compared to now. Like, I feel like now games like hold your hand. If it's not Dark Souls or something like that or Bloodborne, it just like, hey, you want to get this thing? Here, let me hold your hand and bring it here. Oh, there's like a million checkpoints. That's cool. You don't have to get any ribbons for saving here. You can just press the start button and save whenever you want to, man. I feel like that's how gaming is today. Compared
At
to
least, yeah. At least Remake 2 kind of didn't do that much. A lot of people apparently have problems playing this game, and they have problems with the zombies. It's really amusing to me.
oh come on, like I guess we'll talk about, but like all you gotta do is like if you don't want to deal with them, shoot them in the fucking legs and have them do that way. Like,
Well, they think you can just shoot them and they'll die, and it's like, no, you have to think a little bit in this game. I like that. I like that they brought that back instead of.
oh, I'm gonna go on a side tangent really quickly. It's like, because I know speedrunners, like they count how many fucking bullets kill like each enemy. They're like 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a zombie. He goes down. Like in Resident Evil 2 Remake, everything is inconsistent, and I like that.
I like that too. Yeah.
Because it brings the fear in everything. It's like, all right, I'm going back in this area. I hope there's no zombies here. And then I was like, oh my god, the fat zombie's back. So that's why I kind of shoot everybody in the legs, because even if they are back, I could just go around them, and it's easier. I mean, you might have that one be like, I got you, bitch, because they have like amazing range and everything. But people need to stop complaining. Like, stop holding hands and shit, and just fucking play the game.
Hey, they have assisted mode if you need help.
Yeah. If you want to be a pussy, put that mode on. And that's coming from a person that is pretty much average at video games. Like, I'll play normal mode all the way through. My personal story, kind of two of them, and they're really quick.
Okay.
One, the personal story is, this was my first Resident Evil game. I remember my Sega Genesis died on me, and pretty much we sold all my games, all 35 Sega Genesis games, to Funkoland, if anybody remembers Funkoland. And they still did the same thing like GameStop, where they fucking gave you like $5 for like 35 games. And I remember my dad getting really pissed because he's like, I spent over like $200 buying everything and shit. It's like, why am I why am I getting $5? But anyway, I was sad because I didn't have my Super Nintendo either. I did I always done a dumb thing. Is like, when I wanted to get a new system, I pretty much sold the old system. And I kind of wish I didn't, because I had a really big collection in Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. I mean, obviously the Genesis died on me, but whatever. So the whole time I just went over to my friend's house and I played with their Genesis and Super Nintendo. And then that's when the PlayStation came out. And I remember my friend getting it in 98, and he was playing Metal Gear Solid. And I was like, holy shit, Metal Gear Solid is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think it was summertime, where I came home from school one day, and hooked up to the TV was a PlayStation. And I was fucking psyched. And I thought Metal Gear Solid was there. But my dad picked out the game, and it was Resident Evil 2. And I was like, what the fuck is Resident Evil? Because I didn't play Resident Evil 1. So I was like, it has zombies in it. It has a guy in it. Because I was that person. I'm like, I don't want to play a woman. I don't want to be a girl. I want to be a man. And I remember I was like, oh, Leon looks pretty cool. and I liked his Matilda gun that he had. And then when I played it, I just fucking fell in love with it, and that was like love at first sight, pretty much. I think
Here we are today.
yes, like I said, my two favorite franchises are Metal Gear and Resident Evil, and they kind of define the PlayStation pretty much. The other personal story is I remember it was my brother's birthday. I think he was like 5 years old, and he had his friends over, and I was playing Resident Evil 2. I was trying to get Hunkin' Tofu, and I didn't do any saves. I was being bold as fuck. I was like, I'm gonna be the best gamer ever. No fucking saves. Just fucking speed running it. I was like being a hipster speedrunner. And you know, when people are running around, you know, past your console, you're like, I hope they don't trip on it and take it and pull the power out of the socket.
You got the plug pulled on you, didn't you?
I was on the boss. One more shot. I had the rocket launcher in my hand. All of a sudden, my brother's friend goes across, trips over my console. Power goes out on the console.
Oh my god.
I fucking flipped. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go play Fallout 1. And then I went on my computer. And I remember going on Net Zero. If anybody remembers the Net Zero CDs that you would get, it would be like a trial thing. And you would just put in your computer, and that's how you get on the internet. Through your modem. And I would just go on message boards and look up more Resident Evil 2 stuff. And play Fallout 1 on there, because Fallout 1 is amazing. But yeah, those are my two personal stories.
Ouch.
Sad
That hurts.
story. Yep. And it also happened in Metal Gear Solid, where I was trying to. It was Metal Gear Solid 3, and I was playing European hard mode.
European Extreme.
Yeah, European Extreme. And I remember not saving right away because I'm an idiot, and the same thing happened. And I was like, "Fuck this." People, fuck. I'm gonna put the console all the way up in the ceiling. But anyway, let's move on to the next section. And I see I did a typo there because I wrote, "You won, take me G virus." I said it's supposed to say, "You won't take my G virus." And that's supposed to be a nod to like Birkin when Umbrella's like, "You need to give us the virus now," and he's like, "Nah, this is my work. I ain't doing shit."
Nope.
But this section is where we pretty much name off our favorite things in Resident Evil 2. So I'm gonna shoot it to you. Who do you prefer to play as in Resident Evil 2?
Claire.
Why? Because of the grenade launcher and
Because she's bae.
very very straightforward.
No, well, I always liked her character. For a girl, I thought she was fucking cool, like back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Actually. And you know, when I played this game, I was like, it's the first time I was in 6th grade, so that's just about when you start getting interested in girls anyway. So
she was your crush.
Yeah, she was one of my first vid game crushes, I think, actually.
Mine was Laura or whatever how you fucking say it.
Lara Croft was a lot of people's.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I also liked her because she was Chris's sister. So I was like, oh, that's cool. That's a direct connection to the game. Like, back then I didn't come up with my brilliant theory about how Chris is a retard and ruins everything. Back then I still like Chris, actually. I'm joking. But
he's still a retard.
Yeah, he that's a direct connection to the game. I like Chris's character in the first game, so automatically I like her better than the other character.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Mine is Leon, obviously, because of my personal story. I was like, I want to be a man. So, and I dig the Matilda handgun. I don't know. It has like that James Bond feel that weapon. So I was like, oh look, Leon has like a James Bond gun for some strange reason.
It's a similar like style gun, but I think in real life it's actually quite a bit bigger than that one.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause all these are based on real guns.
But it's really weird because, like, I guess in the 90s they had the revolvers still before they switched over to the 9mm. So seeing him have like a different gun, probably compared to the whole force, was a little weird. I was like, oh, he's a special officer, huh? He has to have his own gun.
I'd say it depends on location for that, but I guess really what the implication was is if you remember in the opening cutscene, like the CGI cutscene,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they get in the car and everything, and somehow Leon knows, check the glove box and there's a gun in there for Claire, and that's how she gets her handgun.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that's their standard issue handgun, I guess. Leon has a totally different one.
Yeah, because he has to be a special good boy.
Yeah.
But I guess what I liked about him, he dealt with Mr. X more, if I was correct, right?
It depends on how you play, because like if you whoever plays A, they fight Birkin, and whoever plays B, they fight Mr. X.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I liked him, and obviously I do. My Bay is Ada Wong, so me playing as Ada was pretty interesting, and you know, learning about the lore of her and John, and be like, oh, you're actually a fucking Umbrella employee, or you know, Umbrella rogue person that's trying to get the G virus from Annette. I thought that was interesting, and because Annette knew Ada, I was like, oh, that's shit is happening, and I don't know what's happening, and it's cool.
Yeah.
So
A little intrigue there.
Mm-hmm. So that's why I like it, and I also like that you get the flamethrower with Leon.
Yeah, Claire gets the spark shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is not great in the original game. I'll say this though, I like Leon's loadout better than Claire's in the original game.
Mm-hmm. I wish. Wait, does Leon get the submachine gun?
He can if you want to take it.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's the fucking amazing feature.
the brilliant feature that got blown way out of proportion.
Revolutionary.
Like, yeah, the thing I always did is I would give Leon the side pack because of how his loadout is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's gun ammo, gun ammo, gun ammo. Whereas Claire she's got a handgun, some ammo. She has a bow gun that's kind of shitty, and that grenade launcher with 3 different kinds of ammo for it. So, yeah, one of her guns is a little lacking. So you give her the submachine gun, and it kind of makes up for it.
Mm-hmm. I will say she did have pretty cool guns, and I wanted Leon to have the grenade launcher, but
oh well.
Oh well. What is your favorite boss?
Oh, I guess there's 2, I guess. I have to cheat a little bit. It's kind of for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I like the alligator boss.
Okay.
Just because of how cool it is. It's like you could just kill it brute force, I think, and be stupid and waste a bunch of ammo.
Mm-hmm.
But the game obviously tells you how to kill it. And like they changed it in the remake, but whatever. But in this one, you could either kill it brute force or like see, oh, what's that green button light that just came on? You go over there and push, and this flammable cylinder pops out of the wall, and it eats it. And then you shoot it, and it just explodes. His head explodes. I always thought that was awesome because I like gratuitous violence and gore like that.
I remember when that happened, and I was like, okay, so he eats this thing. What do I do? And the first time I did it, I did nothing.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm an idiot. I have to shoot that thing. And then obviously I did. Because the whole time, the first time I tried to brute force it, where I just like wasted all my inventory, second time is when I hit the button and then it got the cylinder, and I'm like, oh, what am I supposed to do? And I did nothing. And then the third time, I'm like, oh, I shoot the cylinder, and boom, his head explodes. But what was your second boss that you wanted to, or you liked?
Yeah, after that, it's when Mr. X, it's the last time you fight him, when I guess he goes to his full tyrant form.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was kind of like a nod to like the first one, because Mr. X, when he gets into its final form, in both this one and remake, is like very like the one from Resident Evil 1, except a little shorter compared to the first one.
Yeah, he's a little bit shorter. Those are supposed to be. There's like a little story behind that where Mr. X. It's come to find out that's just something. His name was never really Mr. X officially. That's just something that the fandom called him. And I think where it really came from was probably one of those old strategy guides from back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know how if you bought any of them and you can remember this, you know that some of these strategy guides would make up things and like fill in blanks in terms of like names or something or whatever. And I think that was a case of that. I believe it got called Mr. X in a strategy guide.
I remember reading, I don't know if it was from a strategy guide or from like a message boards back in the day. There was like a conspiracy going around that there was armor under his trench coat or some type of gold under his trench coat. And I was like, I always tried to like get a closer look of Mr. X to see if there was gold under his trench coat like an idiot.
He has a gold breastplate underneath his trench coat.
Yeah. Well, you remember when Bret Hart, when he was in WCW, and where he had the vest on, and when he got
Goldberg, Goldberg speared him, and he had like a metal plate.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's what I thought always when I was fighting him. I'm like, yeah, my bullets ain't doing shit to him. He must have gold under there. I was an idiot. But
yeah, like, come to find out, the whole deal with the tyrants, the Mr. X's, is that's like a mass-produced type, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually a cutscene that shows this. There's a helicopter flying around the police station, and it drops one off from like a pod that's holding like a few other ones in it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I guess it's a slightly weaker model tyrant. It's like one that they, I guess, toned down a little bit.
I always thought that he was like the beta, not like a beta male, but like the beta version of Nemesis.
He's the soy version of Nemesis.
But like at the same time as like, well, both Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 happened at the same time, so that would not make any sense at all.
The way, from what I learned, there were two separate projects. They had a project where they wanted to mass produce a tyrant that you could give it basic orders and it would follow them, and that's basically what happened. And then the Nemesis was like a whole other one, and for some reason they just said, fuck it, let's do both experiments in the same city.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. So my favorite bosses, mine was the alligator, but I'm gonna choose something different.
Okay.
I'm gonna cheat a little bit too. The third form of Birkin was interesting. That's the one, I think, where you fight him on the cable car section.
The little the elevator thing.
Yeah. Like I thought that was an interesting fight because I'm like, I'm on a small fucking platform fighting this big ass fucking Birkin. Like,
that's a good boss fight, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I had to give a shout out to the surprising moth boss, kinda.
Odd.
I remember going in that room because I was like, oh my god, I just fought these fucking plants and they're weird as fuck, like little shop of horror plants attacking me. And, and then I go in this room and there's like this huge ass moth. I just the Resident Evil franchise is weird when it comes to like enemies. It's like, oh, this virus spilled out into the city, so like when rats ate the virus, you got lickers. I guess hunters are frogs. Am I correct on that one?
I think so, yeah.
And then you had your super sharks in the Resident Evil 1. And then Resident Evil 0 is when they go fucking nuts. It's like, you want a scorpion? Fuck yeah, scorpion huge. You want monkeys? Guess what? Infected monkeys. And I'm like,
Those monkeys are fucking bullshit. I hate those things.
yeah, I tried to fucking run away from them. But anyway, the moth, I think I have to give a shout out because when I first played, I was like, I need to get to that computer, but this moth is in the way, and and he's annoying as fuck.
Sounds really lame when you put it that way.
Yeah, but like you would think like a couple of shots would take this moth down, or maybe like smack it to the wall very hard, and you'd like kill it. No, like I remember fighting that thing, and it took a lot more ammo than I thought it would.
It takes more ammo than what you would think, but it's really weird though, because like when I beat the game recently,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh shit, it's the moth, and then like I was playing as Leon, and I think I had the Magnum or something. I took the Magnum out and I shot him like
2 times.
I don't know, 2 times, and it died, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, because
That was really anticlimactic.
Yeah, because I had the Matilda with like the custom stock and everything, and I was like doing burst shots, and I'm like, why ain't it fucking dying? I'm like, I don't remember it being this hard before because I played it recently,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh my god, I'm like almost dying to to a fucking moth.
You know what's really funny about that is, I just want to say this because you're like, I want to send a shout out to the moth, is that when everybody found out that the moth got cut from the remake, there was of course like a group of people who were like, how could they cut that sub boss from the game? And it was like, settle down. You can kill that moth in 2 shots depending on what gun you're using. Calling it a sub boss is a bit of a stretch.
Yeah,
And it's in one room, and there's no fanfare, there's no cutscene where it's like, blah, and it shows you the new monster boss. It's just kind of hanging out there, and then you're like, oh shit, I guess I should kill that. So you do,
mm-hmm.
and then you just go about your business.
Yeah, and another shout out too. It's kind of to the remake. Were you sad that there was no huge ass spiders?
Not really.
I was.
I would have liked to have seen them, but I wasn't sad about it.
I was a little bit because I was like, oh man, I'm going into the sewer. I'm gonna be fighting big ass spiders. This is gonna look fucking creepy, and I'm gonna itch myself because I hate spiders. And then you don't see them. I was like, oh no. But I didn't
In my opinion, I think they replaced them with something worse, like scarier.
Oh, what, the Birkin?
No, those. I think they're called mature G's. I think that's the official name of them.
Oh,
those weird blobby things that have like the arm and.
Oh, the snot monsters?
Yeah, I call them poop monsters.
Yeah, when they come out of the sewer, like especially when you get to the door where you have to get the queen and the king plug, and you just see them plop out of the sewer like a piece of poop.
Yep.
So I see where you get that from. Here's a question: what is your favorite part of the game? Resident Evil 2.
Honestly, it's probably just running through the police station. In terms of segment, like I guess if you're talking about out front, out in the city in the start, police station, the sewer, lab. Police station.
Mm-hmm. I think police station is good. I think I really started liking the part where you're getting into the laboratory section. Because it starts getting weird, because that's when the little Shopahara plant monsters start coming. And that great shot of that platform, where you have that middle platform and then each east, west, and north part of the laboratory.
Yeah.
That's when you start going, oh, shit's about to go down. And then that's when William Birkin kind of goes like on different forms and tries to harass you in a way. Especially when it comes down to the countdown. So that's my favorite part. What is your favorite weapons?
Like the Desert Eagle.
Mm-hmm.
Grenade launcher is better in this game.
Mm-hmm.
All 3 rounds are different, and actually different in this one. I also like the fully upgraded shotgun. That's fun to use.
Yes. And I pretty much have the same thing. I like the grenade launcher. I will say something different. The submachine gun I thought was pretty cool. I thought I'm gonna sound lame. I like the sound of it because
Oh no, it's a great gun sound.
it's like, and
It's
then
really weird though, because it's like that gun makes a way bigger sound than I think what it would in real life. It's also bigger in the game than I think it actually is in real life.
and I like how your character is like frozen, but you could like move left or right, and and it's kind of like rotating your body when you're shooting the gun because your character kind of braces like they think the submachine gun is like some powerful 50 cal when you're shooting the thing. When you think of a submachine gun, you think of like P90, I guess.
MP5, something like that.
Yeah, where it's like da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Like both Claire and Leon like brace themselves like they're gonna fall over by using this thing.
Well, the sound it makes you think that too.
True, very true. Yeah, but I like the grenade launcher. I thought the deagle was good. Just the custom parts in this game were just fucking amazing. With like the Matilda with the stock, the shotgun thing, just everything was cool.
Yeah, when you fully upgrade the shotgun and the Magnum, it's like fucking awesome. Because like I liked when you fully upgrade the Magnum, it has so much recoil it blows Leon back.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like, oh shit, and then like the shotgun kind of does the same thing. But I really like about the shotgun though is if you shoot zombies with it, like just kind of hip aim it, it blows them in half literally. It's just always great. There's really good dismemberment effects in this game.
And the flamethrower was okay, but I always went through it really quickly because I was like, plants, and I just put like 50% of the fuel in them because I hate plants.
Flamethrowers in the early games were always kind of underwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's because you had to put like fuel and shit, and when you tap the trigger, like 25% of it's gone already. It's not like the remake where you like do the burst fires and shit and like do like 5%, like spray them like a Windex bottle.
Resident Evil 7 had a really good flamethrower too.
Mm-hmm. That was a good one too. The next question: what is your best rank in Resident Evil 2?
Oh man, I think I got an A a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's as good as it got for me because like I tried to speed run it, I suppose, because in the PS1 version you had to unlock Hunk, but they were never successful attempts. So I never got an S.
I mean, I think I got 1S, but it took a really long time. I've always gotten A's because I always tried to do less saves and stuff. But
yeah,
so I think my average would be like an A, and I did it for both Leon and Claire. So I guess A would be good. What was your time on beating the game? I've done it once where I did it an hour and 45 minutes.
Damn, it's good.
Yeah, I technically can speedrun the game, but it's really annoying.
It's not. I just don't get enjoyment out of playing the game like.
I did it because I remember it was a sleepover, and the mother was always strict about us going to bed early and stuff. Instead of being like children and playing video games until 7 a.m. in the morning, we went to bed at like 9, and I remember being there, and I was like, we just started Resident Evil 2. He's like, well, you got to finish it before 9. And I did. I was like, god damn it, I gotta speed run through this shit. But yeah, that was my best rank. So any final statements on Resident Evil 2 before we move on to our final countdown?
Seems to be that this game has largely been held up as the best entry, depending on who you ask. To a lot of people, it is. It's It's always been this one or 4 or remake usually that's thrown up as this is the best in the whole series.
Mm-hmm.
And it still is to me, even after this recent remake came out. It's still very good.
It still holds up.
Yeah.
So I think we'll move on since we're talking about like. I mean, I said what I pretty much had to say. Resident Evil 2 was kind of like my first Resident Evil, and I thought it had a really good pacing compared to Resident Evil 1. Very good pacing, I would say, to every other Resident Evil game out there. Because all the other Resident Evil games that are out there, very weird with their pacing.
Yeah.
And Resident Evil 6 is an example of pacing where it's just fucking terrible. But let's get into our ranking. So since we're doing like 13 games of the Resident Evil franchise, last episode or part 1 of episode 1, you put Resident Evil 1 at 5 and I put Resident Evil 1 at 7. So where do you put Resident Evil 2 1998 at?
Oh man, I am gonna put it at 2 for now.
2.
Yep.
Resident Evil 2
Is 2.
1998. I will say, for me, Resident Evil 2 was in the 2 spot for me for a really, really long time. Now it's moving down to 3rd place.
Oh.
So I will have it at number 3 for now. Again, this could change, because I could replay a game that I haven't played in a really long time and could change my opinion.
Yep.
Because we still got Survivor, we still got, honorable mentions of the Outbreak games if we could somehow play that. Revelations and stuff. So, I mean, I don't think that would go above the golden age of Resident Evil from 1, 2, 3 and Code Veronica. But, yeah. 3rd place for me, 2 place for you.
That's it.
Yeah. I think that will conclude everything. I thought this was going to be a quick episode, but we had a lot to talk about it because this is one of our favorite Resident Evil 2 games. Resident Evil games.
Yeah.
To catch the Nemesis Project, you can go on novnetwork.podbean.com. That's where we have the audio version. But if you want to see some visuals of us playing the games and some, funny moments of like voice acting or just special moments in the game, then go on YouTube and type in Game Journal and just look us up over there, and that's where we have the Nemesis Project. But this was part 2 of the birth episode of the Nemesis Project. Next episode, we are going to veer off a little bit away from the birth episode. We're going to be talking about a Resident Evil 2 remake with a special guest, and he will join us, and we will have a spoiler cast. Since the game came out in January, it's been almost a month. So if you haven't beat the game yet, don't listen to that episode. But if you have, please come on by. We're going to... Full disclosure, spoiler everywhere. We're going to talk everything. We're not going to be like, this was a great moment. I don't want to spoil anything. It will be spoiled. Like spoiled milk.
You get all the juicy bits.
Yeah, you'll drink it and be like, oh, there's chunks in here. Exactly, because it's spoiled. And also, after that, then we'll go back into Resident Evil 3, which I think we will have a lot to talk about, since I believe that's one of our favorites.
I still really like it, yeah, after finishing it.
Mm-hmm. And you beat it on Dreamcast.
Mm-hmm.
I will probably get it for the N64 and play it on there.
You can't get Resident Evil 3 on N64.
It's not on the 64?
Nope, does not exist.
Wow, this must be like the Mandela effect.
I think it is. It's only for PS1, GameCube, Dreamcast. That's it.
Oh, GameCube. I'll play it on GameCube. That's what I meant to say.
Might be kind of pricey.
I think I have it somewhere in my my garage. I do own it.
That would be advantageous if you could find it.
Hmm. So we'll have that for you. And until next time, stars. Exactly. Later, guys.